So we're looking at the last question, which was consuming resources. The first question I actually thought was quite difficult because actually compare the number of fast food outlets in the northern hemisphere from those in the southern hemisphere. It's a 2-mark question, but it has a really obvious answer in the fact that there are way more in the northern hemisphere than the southern hemisphere. You can't actually give any figures because it doesn't show any figures, so how are you going to get your second mark? What you need to do really is talk about actually places and name some places. So say that there's almost nothing in Africa, maybe a little bit in the South Africa. And also one thing I'd possibly pick up is that in Australia and New Zealand, which are in the southern hemisphere, you do actually have them reasonable sized. So you could say that's like a little exception to your general point of it being mainly in the northern hemisphere. If we go on to the second question and third and fourth, we can see, first of all, suggest 2 reasons for those differences. Things we need to talk about. Firstly, things that the northern hemisphere tends to be the MEDCs, so they've got more disposable income, and therefore they can afford to have to go and buy fast food, whereas people in the poorer countries can't. You've got to be a little bit careful about saying that northern hemisphere has lots of money for your first point, and your second point that the southern hemisphere doesn't. You can just about get away with that bit, try and have something different. You could also talk about the fact that there's a lot more land in the northern hemisphere, therefore there's more population living in the northern hemisphere, therefore you'd expect there to be more. But then you might also want to talk about how there are things like less forms of infrastructure in the less developed countries, more subsistence farming, less disposable income. The next question asked about alternative or renewable resources. For this one, really, there was lots of options: wind, biofuel, tidal, all sorts of different energy resources. What you really need to say is, for your first point, you need to say what it was, and probably that it wasn't going to run out if it was wind or solar. But then also, for your second point, you wanted to talk about how it removes the use of non-renewable resources as well. So you might want to refer how we have less reliance then on things that will run out, like oil, coal and gas. Or you might want to talk about how it doesn't cause greenhouse gases and therefore climate change, so that would make it more sustainable, or anything that said how it was good for the environment. So think clearly about saying what it is for your first point and then giving a reason about why that makes it sustainable for your second point. Remember, sustainability is allowing things to continue over time. The final question was suggesting one benefit of rapidly growing population. So it is only one. You've got 2 points. You need point and development. Generally speaking, I think this is getting at the fact that if you've got more people, you've got more economic capacity. So you've got more people that can work, and you've got more people buying products, which, if they come from your country, is going to mean that there's more money invested in your country. People also talked about the fact that more people meant more potential for intelligence and for more inventors, and that would help you to overcome any problems that you had in the future. Somebody also talked about the fact that a larger country would help you to have, well, you'd have more people, and in a sort of conflict situation that would be better. You'd also have less problems with people trying to start wars with you because they were worried that you had more people.